We are our ancestors' wildest dreams in every possible way. They could not have known the future that they left behind, and it is up to us to keep on pushing so that we may be the past our children inherit. Assalamu alaikum on this midwinter's day at the southern part of Africa. This is Nur the Light. Sumaya Valley has recently been named as one of Time magazine's top 100 leaders of the future, and the accolades are continuing to follow. We met up with her to learn more about the girl who dreamed big.
For young Sumaya Valley, weekends meant a visit to her grandparents in central Joburg. From here, she would explore the city centre and be enthralled by the buildings surrounding her. These early memories led to a love of architecture, and when it came time for Sumaya to choose a career path, there was only one.
I'm extremely in love with Johannesburg, and I always have been. My earliest memories of childhood are spending holidays at my grandfather's stores in the CBD and walking to the Joburg City Library. And I remember the sound of the buses in the rain. I remember walking with cars hooting at me, huge amounts of people walking towards me. And I really enjoyed that feeling. It was very exciting for me to be in the city. And I still get that. My heart starts beating really fast every time I'm in Joburg.
Today, Sumaya is part of an all-woman architecture firm who are slowly but surely making their mark on an industry and profession that they all love.
So Counterspace there are three partners. It's myself, Amina Kaska, and Sarah de Villiers. And we started our company when we were still, or just finishing off with our master's degree in architecture. So we started out just putting on architecture exhibitions. We did pop-up interventions in the city. And then it started to become quite a serious thing. So we all had full-time day jobs. And because we kept getting work, we had to just take the plunge and become a fully fledged practice. So yeah, I think even our practice is really formed on trying to find a new design language or new design languages that are really for Joburg and for Africa. So we're very invested in trying to look for new design solutions that are not just borrowed from elsewhere, from the West or from our apartheid systems, but that actually develop from here. Because the way that people's lives are here are different. People walk around with different myths, different beliefs, different life systems, and we believe that there's huge potential in that. It's kind of design waiting to happen.
The team at Counterspace aren't just passionate about their work, but equally about contributing positively to spaces and places. They've been fortunate to work on a number of designs that are meaningful to the people who use them.
We serve children of all abilities, mainstream children, children who are very neurotypical, but we also really aim to create spaces where children with different learning abilities and different physical and mental challenges might also come and share space with mainstream learners. Counterspace has been great, and what they do for us is they work with us, they sit down with us, and we share what we're trying to do and share our vision and talk about some ideas that we have, and then they help bring those to life through conceptual renderings and then the technical drawings that go with those renderings. And then we start from there with some creative ideas and how those might be manifested in reality. So we've done that in a way with Counterspace to create exhibits that are tailored to all children.
This is one part of a series of prototypes that we've been working on with Play Africa, and this is specifically for kids with autism or people with autism, and what it is it's a multi-sensory surface. There are different types of textures, so there are very rough and hard textures, and then there are also softer but very hard-wearing textures. So there are various dowels and circles that they can just sit and turn and play with quietly. There are also buttons where they can sit and listen to audio. Play Africa does phenomenal work with very little resources, and I think that this installation is one such example of high impact, low resource exhibit.
For Sumaya and team, things aren't always easy. They work in a male-dominated environment, but are making sure their ideas and voices are being seen and heard.
So I won't lie, it's been extremely difficult to be a woman in this profession. I think that there's a lot of embedded patriarchal systems and prejudices in this world. So often I will be in a meeting where I worked on a project and I drove the project, and I'm in a team with men, but only the men will be addressed as if it's their project. So it's something that we're still learning to navigate. We still face a lot of prejudice, being women, being young, being people of color, but we also really believe that those factors really give us our design sensibility and our way of looking at things. And we believe that that is central and integral to what we have to offer. So we started Counterspace because we were afraid that we'd get jaded by standard architectural practice. So it's really important for us that we find ways to keep relevant and that we are inspired by what the city has to offer.
Sumaya has seen the accolades roll in and was recently voted as one of Time magazine's 100 most influential people. The company has also scored a prestigious commission by designing the S14 Pavilion in London. Perhaps the best way to sum up what the ladies at Counterspace are doing would be through the words of master architect Zaha Hadid. I don't think that architecture is only about shelter, is only about a very simple enclosure. It should be able to excite you, to calm you, to make you think.
Wow, what an incredible story that should be shared far and wide. Our episodes will be available on YouTube, so please do check in or go and watch it again when you can. Today is all about living the dream, and our next story tells of two Muslims who are also just doing it.
It's a hot and humid day in Sodwana Bay as a group of female divers board their boat en route to the dive spot where they will drop over and under the deep blue sea. The women on this boat are part of a training program that looks to provide access and opportunities to black females in particular.
Okay, so essentially it's called the Decade Dive Master Storytelling Lab. So we as NUF are doing our bit during the Decade of Ocean Science that the United Nations has just declared from 2021 until 2030 to create 10 dive masters in Africa made up of scientists, journalists, photographers, videographers, writers. It's about giving access to black Africans, about creating access to the ocean so that we can tell, giving them the skills in terms of the diving skills, giving them the amount of hours in water so that they can tell our stories, the stories that matter, so that the people in Africa can see themselves in the stories about the ocean.
The Nature Environment Wildlife Fund was started to create awareness and information of opportunities and careers in the wildlife space to black people. Munira Salis and Nasreen Khan are two of the Muslim participants who joined the Dive Master certification course that took place over 3 months.
Well, I am a part of this lab to basically polish up on filmmaking skills, particularly with regards to wildlife and underwater cinematography. For me, I feel that it's very much a niche market and it's very white and male dominant. And I feel it's important for women to occupy that space. And I'm here to very much attain as much knowledge as possible so that I can be one of those women occupying that space underwater.
And what I wanted to use from the lab after is definitely to be able to communicate the science better, because my biggest struggle was being able to do the good work but unable to tell the story. And that's what scientists struggle with, is the science communication. And being able to translate that into daily speak is an art. With the lab, it's so holistic. It's the diving, it's the safety while diving, and then it's also the storytelling of what we see and how we can bring that out into the audience, and then help people connect with the environment. And if they connect, then they will understand why we need to conserve it.
Munira is a filmmaker from Cape Town whose involvement in the cause has also allowed her to combine her love of the ocean and storytelling. The dive master course will give her the opportunity to take her camera below the surface and tell stories in her own authentic voice.
It's focused on storytelling and cinematography. And when I say storytelling, I mean a 360 of storytelling. It's filmmaking, it's writing, it's different aspects of it. So it's very much harnessing on those skills and giving you a complete picture of what it is to create content. So yeah, for me specifically, it's that underwater world and that wildlife world, and opening up so many doors and opportunities from that aspect.
Nazreen is a researcher, scientist and environmentalist whose love of the ocean started when she watched wildlife and nature films on TV. It was a strange choice for a girl from landlocked Ladysmith, but she was determined to make her dream a reality.
My journey to become a marine biologist started long ago. It started when I was 7 years old. And it started with a wild imagination. So I thought I was an ocean hero. I could dive into the ocean depths and save all the creatures and the ocean. And I was the good guy, and I was fighting bad guys. And also I was a marine biologist in my head. And the journey hadn't changed from them.
As Muslims, it wasn't easy doing the course because it took place over Ramadan and Eid. The girls spent time away from their families, but this created a bond between them where they could share their fasting period with everyone around.
So we've been here, I would say, just over 2 months, and the full duration is 3 months. And during Ramadan, it's obviously extremely challenging this because you're physically busy all the time. You're underwater, you're waking, besides waking up for Fajr and all of that, it's a lot. It's mentally and spiritually, you're in a different space. But it's so important to find that balance, and I feel that as Muslims, Islam is all about balance, and it's not to say because I'm a Muslim I can't do any other things, So this was it was a mindset. I knew I'm coming here, I knew it's Ramadan, and from the get-go I knew I needed to set those boundaries for myself and the balance for myself. So as much it was challenging, it was also great because you're in nature, you're surrounded by so much beauty, which is a different element to having Ramadan in the city too. So yeah, it was an amazing experience actually, despite being away from family and friends.
The course has been challenging, but the girls know it will all be worth it in the end.
I very much would love to become an underwater and wildlife filmmaker, and specifically when I say not just creating my own content, but also one of the best underwater cinematographers. I always set the goal for myself. It's no point in just I want to be something. I want to be the best I possibly can be at that thing.
A lot of the labs that we do as NUF is about fast-tracking the skills development of these storytellers because, we haven't had access. We've been excluded, and the only way we're going to allow them to compete on an equal scale in this industry is to fast-track it. And yes, they've been asked to surrender 3 months of their time, and we're trying to pack as much as we possibly can into this 3 months, but it is urgent. The solutions that are required for conservation of our oceans is urgent. The solutions that are required so that conservation in Africa is not just as it has always supposedly been, a white thing, is urgent. We need to transform it. For so long, it has been the domain of just a privileged few, and we need to see ourselves in those stories if we are going to make a contribution towards protecting this planet.
The skills that I get from this lab is extremely important because there's so many times I found myself in places where I was unable to capture what I've seen. I've been in extreme places, pristine places, places where there's so much of biodiversity, and I was not able to show that to anyone. And with these skills, I hope to bring the conservation, the science, all towards storytelling, to translate that better for viewership.
For these two young women, their journey beneath the waves starts. A whole new world has opened where they will become the storytellers. The example is sure to inspire a new generation who can follow in their footsteps.
So often I think I cannot be more inspired But today's episode has made me so proud to be a Muslim, a woman, and a South African. Now for Lamise to top it all off with a chicken and leek pie.
Assalamu alaikum. You know those cold winter days where you've had enough of soup, but you're still wanting something soupy but not really a soup? This is the perfect dish for you. It's sort of like a hearty meal but in a soup form, but it's the perfect bowl food where the only thing you need is a spoon and some crusty bread. I'm going to show you how to make my hearty chicken, mushroom and leek soup. And the ingredients that you need are the following. I've got about 4 chicken fillets and chicken thighs that have been deboned and cut into thin strips. I've got a punnet of mushrooms that I've sliced quite thickly because this is a chunky soup. I've got some chicken broth, I've got butter, I've got double cream, I've got some oil for frying, I've got leeks, I'm only going to use about 4, and I've chopped and tailed them already. I've got about 4 cloves of garlic, black pepper, red crushed chilies, as well as some salt. And it's super easy to make. It's a one-pot meal that I promise you will quench any hunger. So all I'm going to do now is put my pot on because I want this to heat up. And while my pot's getting warm, I'm going to start by slicing my leeks. So I'm only going to use about 4 of them. So because we always want to do everything really quickly, I'm doing them 3 at a time. And nothing in this recipe needs to be finely diced. And what's nice about this dish is it's really adaptable. So I'm doing leek and mushroom. It works equally well with leek and pea. So whatever veggies you've got lying around that you wouldn't normally put into a soup, this is where you can use it. So leek's done. Now I'm going to add some oil to my pan. And the reason why I use oil is because I don't want my butter to burn. So I literally use a splash, about 2 tablespoons of sunflower oil. So I'm just going to add a knob of butter, and butter and leeks are the perfect combination. So while that's melting, I'm going to add my leeks. And like all the vegetables in the onion family, what it tends to do is it's attracted to moisture. So just like when you chop onions and your eyes burn, the leeks will absorb all of the butter. Nothing stops you from adding an extra knob just for the chias. So now that my leeks are nice and soft and juicy, I'm going to add my garlic. And the garlic just needs to fry until it's nicely amalgamated with my leeks. And I'm going to pop in my chicken with all of our spices. It's nothing like the smell of garlic and onions. I guarantee you it's one of the smells that will get my boys out of bed in an instant. So by the amount of goods in this pot, you can see it's not a soupy soup. So now we're going to add our salt. And salt to taste. So the salt and the black pepper are essentials. The crushed chilies, I prefer. And this is freshly crushed black pepper. I just don't get the same vuma out of the fine black pepper powder that you can get in the spice shops. I know it's convenient, just doesn't have all of that flavor that you get with cracked black pepper. So crushed chili. And this is probably about a teaspoon of crushed chili. So this is the leeks, chicken, mushroom. Mushrooms need to go in. So as I said before, I'm using mushrooms in this one. It goes really well with peas, it goes really well with broccoli. I wouldn't use sort of a cabbagey kind of vegetable, like not Brussels sprouts and definitely not a cabbage, because it's just too watery, but something that's got a bit of bite to it. So meadows work really well, and even fine French beans work really, really well in this recipe. I'm gonna put the lid on and just get this to get to know each other really well. And that will take all of 4 minutes before I add the stock, and then lastly, my double cream. Yummy. So now that these flavors have infused and the chicken is cooked, my mushrooms are still nice and chunky. I'm not sure if I want to add my chicken stock. but I do think it needs just a little bit of liquid because double cream is quite thick. So this is just 1 stock cube in about a half a cup of water. And that's just to add depth of flavor. And now for the part that makes all of this super decadent, the double cream. So this will slowly start to dissolve. And I like to work from the center point so that you don't get little bits of lumps. So now all you have to do is think of ways to eat this, because believe it or not, this is all done. So a couple of recommendations. A bowl, a really good spoon, a healthy appetite, but it goes equally well with crusty bread and with some decadent Parmesan mash. So I'm gonna put this down, get a bowl, and I'm gonna plate up. So this is done, and I'm gonna start plating. So a big, scrumptious bowl. And with nothing but a few sprigs of thyme and a spoon. Cold winter nights will never be the same. So until next time, assalamu alaikum.
Sure, that looks so divine that I want to have it right away. We should get Lemise to make ready-made meals that would really help in this busy world. I can, but only dream. Kinna mari mukonda, kiri ari bueri bonaneng khape. Assalamu alaikum.